Police officers and first responders face great dangers on the job. The number of deaths has increased dramatically since the pandemic began.
In the next part of our series, Liam Collins finds out why some officers believe policing during the pandemic has made them more empathetic towards the community they serve, as they are still coping with COVID.
The dangers of working as a police officer have been heightened during the pandemic. Any normal call could take officers out for weeks or worse with no warning. Officers told me that led to weeks of staffing shortages at any given time. It also led to hundreds more officers dying from COVID than anything else.
I remember the risk. I remember the uncertainty.
Years working as an officer could not have prepared Corporal Corey McNeil for policing during the pandemic.
And we go anyway. And, during this job, there's always risk. COVID was just an additional risk.
He started working for the Collegedale Police Department right before the pandemic began. The department continued on with precautions.
We understood what needed to happen here, so we leaned on each other. We kept each other motivated, kept each other positive.
911 calls poured in for officers to check on vulnerable friends and family. Some calls got even more desperate.
We did have a lot of things like suicide threats. It was a point in time where a lot of people with fear was taking over.
Those calls started taking their toll on his brothers and sisters in blue, but they continued, constantly coming in contact with people who may or may not be COVID positive, potentially exposing themselves and their loved ones to the deadly and at the time unknown virus. Putting their life on the line took on a completely new meaning.
Service comes before ourselves, so we understand that the community comes first. We need to make sure we can get out there and do our job and keep the community safe.
Police officers have died from COVID more than almost any other profession. The Officer Down Memorial page tracks officer deaths. It says 400 more officers have died in 2021 than in 2019, and COVID killed more officers than all other causes combined.
It builds character. So this is something we can always look back on and understand, like, hey, we made it through this. We can make it through the next one.
That character, he says, has made him a better officer, one who puts on the badge with even more pride and even more compassion, one who has seen some of the darkest days of his community and watched them rise above it all, one who will do the same for years to come.
Know that no matter what, we'll be here when they come.
The Officer Down Memorial page publishes officer death data as it's reported to them. You can see that data yourself using the link inside the Local 3 News app. In the studio, Liam Collins, Local 3.
Thank you, Liam. Liam's series continues Tuesday at 6.
He talks to a school district in North Georgia to find how school years will be different for years to come.